after every step, and if you feel that something is missing or something is too much, just please announce it, because this feedback is really valuable. So if we're starting from the regional governance issues, so what was proposed to develop the regional digital strategy and action plan, and I do not stop the actions and deliverables that much, so you can see them hopefully. Also, what we need is a coordination in the regional level. So we need to develop coordination mechanisms, how we go forward. It cannot be only the strategy, but we need to understand how we monitor the progress. There is also need for the political commitment from the heads of states, and they probably must approve the regional digital strategy and action plan, and also definitely provide the resources for it. So the next issue is the legislation, and as it was mentioned in various working groups, in various areas, that it will be a good idea to have a harmonized legislation for the region, and for that purpose it was proposed to develop a standard suite of legislation what countries can easily adapt and take over. And definitely the next step is the implementation of the standard legislation. If we agree what is the standard and harmonization purpose, then we can, all countries can take it over to their national legislation. Can we have a next slide, please? Can we have a next slide, please? Yep, okay, thank you. Also, as it was mentioned in almost all working groups, the centers of excellence for the various e-governance issues. So how to organize it, how to make it, it's the next question, but it looks to be that it is a good idea to have various kinds of e-governance areas, the centers of excellence. It is a good idea to collect the best practices and implementation knowledge there and share it with others. Also, it was proposed, and looks to be a very good idea, the regional alignment of processes, including back office processes. So if we agree inside the region that the processes are aligned and almost in the same way, it will help very much to reuse the solutions also what we are using in one or another country. And the same appears about the data set standards. So if we collect the data according to the same standards and store the data according to the same standards, it makes us very much easier to develop new applications jointly for the region and for the countries in the region. So it's making our life much more easier. Next slide, please. Okay, it's countries already. Now asking, is there something what we need to add to those regional topics? Was there something missing in governance issues, you feel? Definitely you can give feedback later also, because we share all those documents, but doesn't look currently something is totally missing. Okay, then let's go forward with the countries. Also, it was proposed that each and every country will have his own digital strategy and action plan, and this is definitely very much important. And as it was suggested, that it will be in line with a regional development digital development strategy. Also about the legislation, so enabling legislation for the development and implementation, as it was mentioned many times also today, that there are problems with legislation, what not enabling to use the good technical solutions, so there are gaps. So it's very much connected to a plan to have a regional legislation suite available, where from countries can retrieve the necessary pieces of a legislation for themselves. Also, it was advised also several times that there should be a sustainable e-government organization in each and every country, and what will coordinate e-government activities and break down the silos inside the government. So breaking down the silos, it was mentioned in many times in various presentations of the working groups. So it looks to be also a very important issue, but it should be a process also. We just cannot say that now we are breaking them down. It haven't happened yet, so we need to think how to do it also, probably with better coordination inside the governments. Also, it was mentioned in various work group presentations that stakeholder awareness and engagement is extremely important, and stakeholders are, in our case, definitely general public, various citizens groups, but also especially ICT businesses and telcos, banks, but also and universities and other educational and training institutions. So make them aware what we are doing, join the forces for the services development. Next slide, please. Also, okay, so this was about the countries. So is there anything else? I think maybe what was missing a little bit, but it was mentioned during the other panels and discussions that the government officials and general public skills development, especially government officials' skills, both technical skills of ICT staff, but also general government officials' understanding about digital data, digital solutions, and how they can use better the data existing in the government for the better decision-making and solutions-making. So maybe this is what we need to add somewhere. Any other comments in this point? Great. Yes, please. Yes, this might be, it's a little bit like outside of e-government development, but we need to add it somewhere because the general, let's say ICT education in all levels and understanding. Yes, this is a very important remark, yes. Okay, well, let's move to the service-oriented government issues. In regional level, it was proposed, and I think also it's a really great idea, that adoption of a public service charter, what was presented us during the symposium also. So this really provides a good framework for the public service and online services delivery. It is also proposed, and really good idea, that the assessment of the services and identifying the gaps and defining the high priority areas of a region. So as we understand from this proposal from a working group, and then somebody from working group maybe can comment it also, that the idea was to assess what are the services, what we can transform online, and where from both citizens and government will have win-win situation if this service is going online. So both citizens and government can really win from this transformation and save a lot of time and money and other resources. But can somebody from this group comment it also a little bit? Can somebody recall where from it's coming? I cannot take a look now. No, okay. Okay. If not, let's go further. It is always, the next point is sharing best practices in the region, and I think this is extremely important issue, and the centers of excellence, what was proposed also to do, it should be like one of the key activities of centers of excellence. Also, the next point, the stakeholders and public consultation in regional level looks to be very important because, as we heard from many presentations, companies are acting for the Caribbean region, and if we cooperate with them, much more in the regional level, we can, as a countries, can have a win-win situation and get better services and better prices also. But also definitely all other stakeholders in this case are very much important. And public education, awareness actions, joint plans, is important because it might be important to develop jointly various kind of awareness-raising actions what are suitable not for only for one country but for many. So also this kind of campaigning and other issues, and campaigning material could be very much reusable for many countries, not only for the one. Well, please, next slide. And also there was mentioned several flagship activities. So I just listed them here. So one was about the smoother movement of goods and services based on access to the databases, so various kind of business licenses, checks, whatever more data checks to make the moving of the goods and services inside the region smoother are definitely welcomed. And this should be now assessed what are those applications and where the region as in general can have gain the best results. Also, the seamless traveling was mentioned several times. So crossing the borders without delays and endless document checks could be a good idea. And also it's related very much to a regional border management system. And also various kind of citizens portals were mentioned for online travel, the joint identity management for the portals. So as we understand it, that if citizens can maybe use several joint regional portals, and if having the kind of regionally recognized digital identity, to use those tokens to use those services through the portals. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And about countries. It also was mentioned that definitely there is a need to assess the services and identifying the gaps and developing the action plans. Also to figure out what are the critical services, what could be moved online fastly and what could solve a lot of problems. Also best practices sharing inside the governments and replication of the best practices and services. So the idea is that if one ministry or entity has developed good online application, can we replicate the same for others? And business reengineering, but definitely needs a lot of efforts inside every government is also absolutely necessary and important task. Next slide, please. Also, a stakeholders consultation inside every country is very important to gain the best results. And also it was mentioned as a very good idea, the co-creation of the services with the citizens. So kind of bottom-up approach, not to develop services from the government to the citizens, but ask from the citizens what we actually want and the way, how we actually want to get the services. And last but not least, the data digitalization. So assessment in what level the data is digital in various registries, databases, and how we can digitize the databases and how we can improve the quality of the data, as it was discussed during the symposium, that without high-quality digital data to provide online services, automated services, is really complicated. Well, let's go to the next slide, please. A couple of flagship applications were mentioned also for service-oriented government. It was better tax and duties collection, and this is really important because if government can collect better taxes and duties, governments will have more money also to do something more, both for online government but also for the traditional way to provide the services. And also it was mentioned that it is really important, and as we learned from the sample of Jamaica yesterday, that better portals and access to the service information is really important. And as it was discussed during the symposium also, that how to develop the best mobile applications and mobile portals, it's really important questions because citizens are using mobile devices. So this was about the service-oriented government. Any comments, additions? Is something missing? Is something too much? Or it's reflecting more or less what we discussed yesterday? Everybody wants to go home, actually, I know. This is the right answer. Okay, not that much left. Let's go to the next slide. And infrastructure. I think infrastructure is absolutely important issue, and the savings from the cooperation for the infrastructure for the region could be really high. So proposed actions and activities are that to assess the regional infrastructure and develop a plan to utilize infrastructure, existing already infrastructure, what is developed under various programs. So the idea was that can we utilize the existing infrastructure already better, not only build, but also utilize the existing one and maybe share better. Also the procurement was mentioned, so can we procure jointly? I understand that to procure jointly between, involving some governments, it's sometimes really complicated, and I know governments are giving up usually, but as our colleagues from telecom operators told us that basically if you procure jointly, they can offer better prices. So it might be so, but we need to test it. But we can test it only when we really jointly procure something, and when we can negotiate better rates also. Also, the connectivity and broadband access. This is absolutely like a precondition to provide services online. So it is not only how we leave it to telecom operators, but also how we push them to do it better and what kind of conditions and licensing conditions we are putting for the telecom operators. And as we learned yesterday from the presentations, they are really happy to provide more if we are asking it properly. The shared technology solutions. And this is really important because the technology solutions for the online government services might be really expensive, first, and secondly, deployment of them and running of them, it's not only costly, but also needs a really skilled staff. So if we can share two solutions, we will save both in investment and running costs. So what was proposed to develop, make an assessment what kind of solutions we can share for the region, and definitely there should be a business plan also for every solution that how it's placed, how it's handled, and how it's shared and how it's operated, and how the costs are covered also, what is the cost-sharing mechanism also. And among those shared technology solutions, actually two of them was also popping up. The secure data exchange or interoperability solution, so we really can share the data, collect the data from various databases and provide it for the services. And also it was mentioned later that not as a technology solution, but also for the services, regional services, if countries can easily share the data for border crossing or whatever, another service, it is extremely important. Next slide, please. Thank you. And also shared data and databases solutions implementation in the regional level. It was mentioned in several working group presentations, so it's connected definitely to secure data exchange issues, but it looks to be important issue for most of the countries. Also, it was proposed in the infrastructure part that standardization of the networks and other infrastructure, it's really important, so all the countries in the region using the same standards, so it will be much more easier to plug in new country to the solutions or share their solutions if they are using the same standards. Regional redundancy for the national databases, it is connected closely to the cloud solutions that your databases are really securely duplicated in the region, in the same legislation area, working on the same regulations as in your own country. And this was the topic of Caribbean cloud service providers as it was presented yesterday, and but also it's neat kind of harmonization exercise. And about the infrastructure also, portals and mobile portals development. So can we do something jointly or share something, maybe not as a portal for the services, but as a portal as a replicated issue? Should be discussed and assessed what it actually is, but looks to be really important issue, because as we learned already yesterday, and it was again the presentation of Jamaica, so to do something what is really user-friendly, with user-friendly interface, it is a piece of art and big knowledge. So if one country can do something what is understandable for everyone, it is probably a good idea to replicate it. Next slide, please. Infrastructure in the countries. Also, it was proposed that each country can conduct the assessment of infrastructure, so it will be clear what is missing and what the country must do, and the creation of roadmap of infrastructure development also. And the roadmap is a really good tool also to agree what the country will do by himself and what the country can do together with the countries in the region. Connectivity and broadband access is not only a regional question, but definitely a big question for each and every country. And how to do it, it's definitely also a big question for each government, because I think the citizen will demand better access endlessly, so it's kind of endless work, most probably at least for the next couple of years. Universal coverage plan to access the services. This is a really important issue, because even my country in Estonia do not have this kind of plan, because no one is interested to do it, because when you understand where are the gaps and all the success story, at least inside the country, will fail. But it's honest idea to really cover all the services with this plan and make sure that all the services are covered and provided online as much as possible and presented in the same way. And also, inside the countries, breaking away silo databases and cooperation development by using infrastructure is extremely important, because I think you have all experienced it that, okay, if there is a fiber optic going to each village to provide government services, why the same fiber optics cannot serve also the educational purposes, schools? There is inside each fiber optic cable are endless capacity of for the transaction, for the digital data transmission, and why not to use the same cable also for the other purposes? But I have seen in some countries, and not in this region, that there is like few fiber optic cables are going to each village. It should be rich country, but they are not rich countries. So there is a lot of, and also like computing power sharing and so on. So cooperation is really important. And the cybersecurity is not in the slides, but what we learned already from the last presentations is that, first of all, the regional cyber incidents handling teams, CIRTs, is proposed to have also cybersecurity-related legislation cooperation, and what was mentioned in all most of the groups, and the same appears in the country levels. plus in the country levels, also the clear rules and regulations about cybersecurity, and not only developing the rules and regulations, but also implementing them and monitoring how they are actually followed. Because as we learned today from the various presentations, the person is the most vulnerable part of this chain. So we need to train people, not only in the government, but everywhere, how actually securely use the internet and our online tools. So this is all from me. So this plan will be sent out to you as a draft for your comments, and the CTU will add there also like a timeline, estimated costs, and responsible persons or organizations for it. So it will be like a next steps plan for the next years, how to go forward. And definitely during the next various kind of meetings through the CTU, countries must decide what are the priorities and what are the first activities to be taken, and how they will be implemented. So I stop in this point and hand it over to CTU to discuss and present how we go forward, and wrap up also this great symposium here in Antigua during last 3 days. Thank you very much.